Well, good morning everyone and welcome once again to Ed's Orchids. Now this is a bit unusual for me filming in the kitchen, but seeing as I've got all my plants indoors, I'll be doing this for a few months. Well, I've got 4 Cattleyas in front of me and I just want to talk a bit about Cattleyas. First I'll show you what type of Cattleyas these are, and for those who's noticed, there's something very English. We've still got the kettle there. So let's just have a look at these plants. Well, the first one here is the Golf Green, Hairy Pig. What a horrible name for a beautiful Cattleya. And you can tell it's getting the right watering, because all the pseudobulbs are nice and plump. This is what should I. It doesn't happen on all the Cattleyas that some of them are ribbed, but if the lead pseudobulb is nice and plump, then it's getting the right amount of water. This is a nice upright standing Cattleya. Doesn't grow and walk along the top and then go out over the edges and point in every direction. This is just a nice and straight Cattleya, like I like them to be. That's well, it's got some nice roots growing there and doing very nicely. It only needs the correct lighting, which I'll talk about in a bit, and the watering and one thing and another. But that's the Golf Green Hairy Pig. This one is the Cattleya King of Taiwan. I think it's Tar Sin. When it said Sin, it's H-Y-S-I-N, I think. So it's King of Taiwan, Tar Sin, I call it. Now this is doing very nicely. I got it about, only about 6 weeks ago, and it was all over the place, you know. It wasn't standing upright like it is. So I wired it up as I wire those up, and I've just taken the wire off and it's going straight up now. It's growing some very nice roots. You can see them coming through the bottom there. Some nice roots there, and the lead pseudobulb is nice and fat. So that's doing very nicely. This is the Cattleya Mahina Yahiro Ulei, and not growing as fast as the King of Taiwan, but still looking very nicely. I haven't been bothered with mealybug or scale on these Cattleyas yet, and I don't expect to be with keeping them inside. There is slightly new growth going on down there, but not doing as quite as good as the King of Taiwan, but it'll be okay, this one. And this is the Dianna, Cattleya Dianna, that I keep getting asked about after I split it and give it the bleach treatment. Well, the bleach treatment hasn't bothered it one little bit. All the bugs have gone and the spike is continuing to grow. There it is, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's going to be beautiful. That's Cattleya Dianna. Oh, and by the way, that's where I've got the Paphiopedilum Farianum. It's a little bit cooler in the kitchen, so it should do well there. Well, what can I tell you about these Cattleyas? Well, as regards light, when they're getting the correct light, they show an apple green colour. A bit like what these are now. If they get far too much light, they'll show up as leaning towards the yellow colour, and sometimes if they're getting direct sun on them, they'll look a bit brown. And as usual, if they're not getting enough light, there'll be a very luscious dark green. I think that's about all I can say about the light. Just make sure they're a nice apple green colour, and then they'll be sure you're giving it the correct amount of light. Now they need a good amount of water during the growing season, but they must always be left to dry out completely before you water them again. These plants, well, it goes without saying, they'll be better dry than wet. The wetness cuts off all the air to the roots, and as you know, Cattleyas generally grow as epiphytes, so they need their roots exposed to air and dry air at that. Now a lot of people grow these in semi-hydroponics, which I used to do, and although they grew well for 12 months, 18 months, sometimes 2 years, with being continually damp, it sort of starts to rot the roots after a while. Although they're getting a bit of air in the semi-hydroponics, the dampness is always there. So in my opinion, then they're not good growers for long lasting in semi-hydroponics. If you are growing in semi-hydroponics, what I do suggest is that when the reservoir at the bottom of the pot is empty, leave it empty for at least 3 days before you fill it up again. Also, when the sheaths and buds start emerging out of the sheaths, cut back on watering, because if they get a little bit of spray on the wrong part of the plant, you can start causing rot, and the buds won't develop properly. Now, as regards fertiliser, they don't require a lot, but they do require calcium and nitrogen. As you all know, calcium is the building block of all the cells on plants, and it's an immobile substance, so it can't move from one part of the plant to another. So it can't move itself to new growth. This is why sometimes on Cattleyas you get the black marks on the tips and the black marks on the new emerging plants. This is because the calcium isn't getting to those parts of the plant. Nitrogen, on the other hand, is you using, if you're feeding nitrogen, which they do need for growing, then don't forget that if you're growing them in bark, the nitrogen will start using the bark for decomposition of the wood. So they can suffer from a lack of nitrogen, which will show marks on the leaves and also on the new growths. So really there are only 2 things which will prevent your plant from developing into the plant you wish it to be, and that is light and watering. Make sure it gets the right light, and make sure it dries out properly before re-watering. And that's about all I can say about Cattleyas. Well, the only other tip I can give you on this video is that you know, we use all sorts for getting rid of bugs and one thing and another, and if you haven't got a big outbreak, you just use the bug spray you get from the garden shops. But another thing you can use, if you don't like using that, is the ordinary mouthwash. You remember that Listerine, it's called. I remember I used to use it donkeys years ago. It's just come to me, and but it's got to be the original Listerine. I mean, nowadays they put all sorts of perfumes in it, you know, and to make it different colours, but if you want to try Listerine, that works very well on mealybugs. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.